Hey everyone, about 5 years ago I started making sourdough bread, and a number of my friends have asked how I make this sourdough bread. I've made recipes, many recipes, failed many times at getting it right, and so today I am going to try to show you guys exactly how I make sourdough bread that has been successfully repeated many times. Okay, so this is my sourdough starter that I have taken out of the fridge. I leave it in the fridge and refresh it every couple of weeks by adding 100 grams of flour and 100 grams of water to the mix. So it's a 50-50% mix of flour and water and sourdough starter. So what I do is I take 50 grams of this starter and I add it to 228 grams of flour, 228 grams of water. So it's a 1-to-1 mix of flour to water along with 50 grams of starter right from the fridge. So here's a resulting mix of sourdough starter that I take and let sit for, let me try that again. So once again, I take 228 grams of flour, 228 grams of water, and about 50 grams of starter from the fridge, and I let it sit for about 12 to 18 hours. This has been sitting for about 12 hours, and you see the bubbles on top. The longer I leave this sour, I'm going to call this the sour, the longer I leave this sour like this, the more sour, the sourer the bread is. And what I'm going to do next is wait a couple more hours to make the bread a little bit more sour, and then I'm going to continue to make the bread. Okay, so what I've done here is I've put in my water, I've got my pre-measured flour out, and there is the sour that's been going for about 15 hours. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the sour and mix it in to the water that I've pre-measured. There's about 450 grams of water and about 750 grams of flour. Okay, so here what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the sour, and in it goes into the water, and I'm going to mix that sour and water for a little bit, just so that it gets incorporated. Make sure I get all the sour in, and that's pretty good. And then it's time to take the flour. Flour goes into my bowl, like that. And then go like this, mix it around, incorporate and get the dough all wet, and so that the sour and the dough mix together properly. Okay. I've got a dough hook to do this, but I could just as easily be doing this with my stand mixer, which I will get during the next phase of the kneading portion. So after I mix all of this together into one sort of mass like this, I'll let it sit for half an hour, and you can see how raggedy it is right now. And then in half an hour I'll come back and I'll start the kneading, the kneading process, which I'm going to do with my stand mixer. Okay, so the flour has been resting for about 15-20 minutes, and you see it's got a little bit more structure to it than when I first put the flour and the sour into the bowl. So what I'm going to do next is use my stand mixer to do all the heavy lifting of kneading the bread. I'll set the stand mixer to about 10 minutes. So we're gonna knead on the stand mixer, first starting at a medium speed and then moving to a faster speed for about 10 minutes. But before I do that, I need to add 2 teaspoons of salt. Sometimes people who like their bread a little saltier will add 2.5 teaspoons, but I tend to like 2 teaspoons of salt. Okay, here we go with adding the 2 teaspoons of salt to the mix. Two. We'll do that for a little bit, and I'm going to turn the speed up on my mixer to medium speed for about 5 minutes, and then I'll set it to fast speed a little bit after that. So after about 10 minutes in the mixer, you'll see that it's clearing the mixing bowl, which isn't 100% required, but it's doing quite well, and you see that I'll show you in a second that it's come together quite nicely. So you'll see here that essentially it's got some strength to it. Doesn't necessarily pass the window pane test at the moment, but it's getting close to it. So I'm going to leave it in for another half a minute or so, and that will be 10 minutes in the mixer, and I think that should be sufficient for this attempt at making sourdough bread. From there, I'm going to take it out and put it into my bowl here for, I'm going to put it into my bowl, which I've got over here. Can you see that? See it in a second. I'll take it out, and out of the mixer it goes, and into, side, into my oiled, lightly oiled with olive oil, you'll see here, lightly oiled bowl where it's going to go ahead and do its bulk fermentation. And you can see that there, it's nice, got some nice strength to it, and we will see you at the next phase. Okay folks, so this is the first of 3 stretch and folds. What we do is we stretch the flour, stretch like this, fold it over, turn, pull, stretch. You see that the dough has some more strength to it. Turn, stretch, fold over, and then 4th time stretch and fold. And the purpose of this is to give the dough a little bit more strength. I sometimes like to flip it over, just like that at the end. And that's our first stretch and fold. Okay, we'll do that 2 more times, and I'll show you what happens after that. It's 45 minutes later, and here we are. I'm going to do another stretch and fold. You see how the dough has got a little bit more strength. And then, so it's been an hour and a half since we first finished in the mixer, and there is my stretch and fold. I think I did that correctly. And we will let it sit for another 45 minutes, at which point we will do the final stretch and fold. Okay, here we go with our third stretch and fold. By now you can see that the dough is pretty well ready to be put into it's got nice strength to it. And here's my final stretch and fold like that. And that's done after 45 minutes. So there's the third and final stretch and fold. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take the dough and put it onto my lightly floured surface here so that I can split it into two and eventually put it into its form for turning into sourdough, or turning it into it. So here's our nice dough that we worked on. Looks pretty good. I've got this one piece, and I'm going to basically split it in half like this. You can see it's got some nice strength to it. I'm going to slowly take it and form it into a ball. So I'll just sort of fold it into the center, go like this. I'm going to flip it around and loosely shape it into a round. Do the same thing here. Sort of go like this, fold it into the center, turn it around, that, and I'm going to let that, I'm going to cover that, turn it into a little thing like that. So a little bit of flour on top. That. I'm going to take it and cover it for 20 minutes or so. Okay, so after 20 minutes of relaxing, I'm going to just basically finally shape these two boules. I'm going to basically go like this. So basically make it stronger and make it so that the surface comes a little bit, makes it a little bit stronger like this. There you go. And shape it into a round, right? And sort of twist it so that it closes. You'll see that it's got some strength. This one isn't going to be perfect. And then I'm going to pop it into one of these forms that have that I put a mix of rice flour and corn flour, cornmeal, fine cornmeal, along with some sesame seeds. So I'm going to pop that in once I'm done. So that's the first one. It's going to pop in there like that, boom. And then the second, I'm going to do the second one here into the center, right, like this, and then like this, so that it's all done. And then flip it around, and then pull it forward to shape it into a round. And once it's shaped into that round, I'm going to pop it into my second one and put these back and let them rise for another half hour or so. Okay, here we go. I'm going to go ahead and take out my first loaf onto the form here. And I'm going to score it. And the way I'll score it is just by going 1 and 2, and then a couple like 3, 4, 5, 6. So from that scored loaf, I will pop that in the oven, which I'm not going to videotape because it's too difficult to do. And I will pop it into the oven in one of my La Crusette bowls, and we'll go from there. And here's the result of our first loaf coming out of the oven after baking for 40 minutes at 475 degrees. So you'll see, I'll just turn it around. there you have it. And now let's see how it looks when we do a cut. There you go. Nice multi-grain sourdough bread made today.